Alright, boys and girls, Acer God is in the building, which is my cue to start the stream. Today's matchup, first matchup, starting as soon as Acer gets back online, is going to be Acer Game versus H2O. I think that's one that we're all waiting for. I know me, as a fan of Age of Empires 3, that is one that I am waiting for. And I think it would be a fair assumption to say that most people that follow the Age of Empires 3 scene are pretty excited for this match. So that is going to be the first match of today, starting here in a moment once Acer Game gets online. We'll perhaps do a quick lag test just to make sure that that everything is good to go, and then at that point we'll start into the games. I don't have a co-caster. The co-caster's seat is empty right now. Yumiu was online a little bit earlier, but he seems to be away now. Interjection is online, but not responsive. And, well, it doesn't seem like... It seems like, at least for the time being, I'm just going to go at this by myself. Of course, these guys also want to play with as little lag as possible, which is certainly something that is understandable. And I'm fully aware that playing in a lag-free environment is important for everyone involved. So, for the time being, I think I'll just start with solo casting, and then we'll see what happens after that. Is this a lag test? Is this lag test or for real? I better quick I gotta figure my stuff out. Okay, lag test. I was just making sure. I was just making sure that I wasn't missing anything, because I just blindly clicked the button and I'm like, all right, here we go, 1, 2, 3, fly, and then I didn't actually know what was going on. Either that or Acer Game is doing a very clever Vill Rush to open this game. Acer Game is valiantly marching across the map with his villagers. I expect to see a little bit of villager wars here very quickly. Look at the villagers go. It looks like Acer's decided he's just going to take up camp in H2O's base and start eating his hunts. Game 1. We gotta zoom in on this action, because now it's for real. Alright, one down. These poor looking at the avatars, I used to roll with Acer Game's avatar for a little while, the parrot on the pirate shoulder. But I opted for the Wise Woman way back when TWC came out instead of the parrot on the pirate shoulder, simply because Parfait at the time was using the parrot on the pirate shoulder, and I didn't want to get accused of trying to steal his portrait. So I switched to one that no one would likely ever use, which was the old Wise Woman, and have been using her ever since. That's my story. Alright, looks like lag is okay. And we'll head out and get into a real game here in a moment. Game number 1 is on Tibet. I should look at the map pool and pull it up here if I can. Got map pool. that's the lazy Zuda way of saying, like, someone else pays me the map pool. Either that or I'll attempt to navigate to it now. I'll attempt to navigate to it now. It should be over here somewhere. There it is. ACERGAME versus H2O. Tibet is map number 1. I do know that's for certain. The map pool for today is Tibet, Hudson Bay, High Plains, Cascade Range, and Arkansas. It is a best-of-5 series. Worth mentioning that there's a pretty good slate of games going on. Unfortunately, the Samwise Lord Raphael game that was scheduled to happen immediately following this one has been postponed on the account of Sam, I believe, is not home from his vacation yet. And as a result, we're going to be watching Goodspeed versus Mongo 10 in that slot instead today. So just the full slate of games. ACERGAME versus H2O starting right now as soon as we get ready to go. Match number 2, Goodspeed versus Mongo 10. That'll be starting around 20 GMT, between 20 and 20:30 GMT. And then to follow it up at the end of all this madness, Mito versus Ramix 12 to finish things off for the nightcap for those of you in the EU. That'll be it. Map pool H2O, they're posted in. I fully expect to see a China mirror in game number 1. And I want to throw back to when ACERGAME played against... who did he play against? He played against Sam, but it was the matchup before that. It was the matchup before the finals when he played against Sam. And he did something really clever. I think it was in the round of 4. Maybe it was in the round of 8. And it was in a China mirror on Tibet. And he did like this kind of funky, really aggressive, no crate, low eco FF rush, I guess if you could call it that, which basically banked on the porcelain, using the porcelain tower to get to H2, and then using the Confucian Academy to still get the 8 arquebusiers upon aging, and then played really aggressive with his shipments, things like intervention, 5-meter hammer. Never shipped 700 wood, just shipped 700 coin, and played really aggressively. And I want to see if he's going to do something like that. We're about to find out, because game number 1 is going to be taking off here in just a moment. As soon as I click in, game number 1 between H2O and ACERGAME09, an American slugfest, an all-American affair here at 17 GMT, bright and early in the morning, at least for me. But I wouldn't have it any other way. I wouldn't rather be anywhere else than casting this game right now. Because just like you, I am here to watch and enjoy this just as much as everyone else. Spawning in the bottom left side of the map in the color blue, playing the Chinese civilization, our beloved American H2O. And love him or hate him, spawning in the upper right hand side of the map in the color red, also piloting the Chinese civilization, ACERGAME09. ACERGAME09 going to be spawning up here. It is going to be a China mirror. The map is Tibet. And we'll see whether or not Acer's got anything tricky up his sleeve. Of course, Tibet does have a fairly decent amount of yaks on it, which are going to be important for both of these Chinese players to leverage. We can already see ACERGAME picking up 3 yaks in the early game, and a little bit of a fight breaking out over here. Over a 90 wood treasure, it looks like. H2O kind of caught up in a bad way. It looks like he is going to be able to pick up the treasure, which is going to help him. Knowing H2O, my guess would be that he's already banked on the fact that he was going to get that treasure and had pulled off wood early as a result, and indeed that is true. He had pulled, it looks like, a couple of his villagers off, banking on the fact that he was going to get that. Did indeed pick up the treasure and is going to now have the 200 wood required to build his second village. ACERGAME, similarly, it looks like, at least momentarily, was banking on the fact that he was maybe going to get that treasure as well, but has identified an 85 wood treasure over here, so he should be fine and able to pick that up and still get his village down in time to be able to not miss any northern refugees drops. H2O coming in here looking for a sneaky little steal. Has run right up to ACERGAME, and if he can steal that, that is going to be a very nice bonus for him. Unfortunately, it's not. ACERGAME picks it up, grabs that 85 wood, and is able to accordingly build his village up as well. So, well, actually, things looking pretty even here for the most part in the early game. Both players taking a look at the early treasures, getting a pretty nice, beefy wood treasure. H2O did pick up a 40 wood treasure as well. But that was after the fact, after he had already collected that extra wood to be able to get his village up for the northern refugee shipment, and isn't going to have too much of an impact on the way of this game. First shipments coming in, it looked like northern refugees was the shipment of choice for H2O. Completely normal standard stuff there. And here we'll see in a moment whether or not Acer's immediately going to throw a wrench in the Chinese mirror. It looks like he is not. He's also going to opt for something completely standard, sending northern refugees as his first card as well. And very soon we'll start to see the choices of wonder here as well, which I think will be the next big defining moment into whether or not we're going to continue down this path of normal China mirror, or whether or not we're going to see something a little bit more interesting, as it were. ACERGAME quickly approaching that 800 food mark needed to age. Looks like he's got something a little bit more aggressive on his mind at the very least. Yeah, and here it's going to start already. We've got a porcelain tower, and not only have we got a porcelain tower, we've got a porcelain tower with 6 villagers building it. Worth noting also that he did gather up one of his goats in the transition to be able to expedite this wonder slightly, and as a result, he's going to be aging not only a little bit quicker than H2O, but also with more villagers on it, which is going to mean he's going to be aging even faster. And look at H2O. We've got a non-standard China mirror here to break open this match, because it looks like H2O has also dropped his porcelain tower down. Interestingly enough, has begun researching it with absolutely nobody building on it. And I wonder if he's got some sort of build out of Acer identified and is going to try and do something to counteract that. We can see ACERGAME is going to age up here very early. If we look at the time stamp, the standard time that we see China aging up for the most part in China mirrors is between the 4:50 and 5-minute mark. Acer is going to far eclipse that. He's easily going to be aged up before the 4-minute and 30 mark. In fact, 4 minutes and 23 is where he's going to clock in, and that is a very, very early age up. And so we'll see what his next card choice is. Still looking like it's going to be something FF oriented, due to the fact that he has gathered up almost exactly 300 coin, sitting just shy of that, but he's got a couple of villagers here that he will be able to utilize to gather up that last little bit of coin. And H2O similarly, Vills on coin, looking like he's still going to do something FF oriented, but non-standard FFs to be sure. I do wonder if both of these players don't want to age with the Confucian Academy just to get that extra little bit of skirm presence early in the game. For ACERGAME, perhaps because he's got something aggressive in mind, and for H2O, just because I think, like me, he's thinking back to that time where ACERGAME did the very aggressive low eco FF kind of like rush. I don't know what else to call it. Low eco FF rush, I think, is the most adequate way to describe it, because it didn't have a market, it didn't even have a consulate to start with, because there was no 700 wood shipment. It was just like shipment, 8 arquebusiers, lots of vills on the wonder, and just aging as quickly as possible. And look, it looks like that's exactly what we're going to see here once again. ACERGAME dropping down the Confucian Academy, throwing a bunch of villagers over to wood, which signals to me that once again he's not intending to send 700 wood. I don't think ACERGAME is intending to send 700 wood. Had he been intending to send 700 wood, we wouldn't see nearly this many villagers over on wood gathering right now. That's not the case. We see a bunch of villas on wood. In fact, we see the porcelain tower on wood as well, which makes me think that whatever he's going to do here is going to come solely off the back of this gathered wood, and then whatever shipment he's going to send first is going to be purely gathered resources. Interestingly enough, H2O also throwing an immediate wrench in the what I would call normal China FF build by building well, two things. One, building the Confucian Academy, and two, sending 700 wood of his own as well. This signals to me H2O knows something goofy is going on, because if you take a look at this building structure, all of this stuff is very defensively placed. He's got the War Academy jammed in here behind his town center and Confucian Academy. The consulate similarly jammed in here behind the two villages. ACERGAME is up at 7 minutes flat. He's got a forward War Academy, and I think we're going to see it. We're going to see a very similar build to what we saw him do previously. We're going to see very aggressive Age 3 play, and I'm curious to see how that's going to play out. Consulate is up. He's got the British consulate already researched. I mean, he could even do something cheeky like he's spent export. What has he spent it on? 250. No, he's not. He's making petards? Is he really? He's going to petard Skirm FF? Surely, right? That's what costs 250 coin, or 250 export. ACERGAME's paused. He's getting his mouse ready to ram the petards into the town center. That's what he's doing. Can I see text being researched? Text complete? No. Oh, it doesn't change right now. Text being researched, it stabilized. Now that doesn't mean that he's out of the woods just yet. There are still a lot of units here from his opponent. There's the very scary intervention shipment out for both sides now. Of course, Confucian Academies do spawn flying crows at the rate of one every 5 minutes, so we can look for those to come. For ACERGAME, at least, if I do recall correctly, he aged up around the 7-minute mark, so he'll have his first flying crow here in about 2 minutes' time, which will be about a full minute earlier than H2O, which maybe will give him a little bit more of a timing to try and siege down the town center as well. And ACERGAME looking like he's just going to continue to keep up the pressure. We can see, of course, H2O has some fairly exposed villagers back here just due to the fact that Tibet is a bit lower of a hunt map, and as a result, these villagers are a little bit out in the open here. The Meteor Hammer swinging around to the south side, looking to raid a little bit, but H2O, well aware that his opponent is going to be looking to raid, comes down here, perhaps even saw him in the moving around with vision from his Confucian Academy. Everything looking so far so good for the time being. And the key thing to note, ACERGAME just now building up this trading post, while H2O has had one for much of the game, which is going to result him in having a slightly further ahead shipment progression. But Acer still definitely has some tempo here, has done a pretty good job thus far of applying some pressure. And when all is said and done, we do have to remember that ACERGAME does still have a porcelain tower, which is several villagers, despite the fact that it's an Age 2 porcelain tower, which means it's slightly weaker. It's still pretty good. And oh man, if H2O knows this timing, knows the 5 minutes, knows that Flying Crow is coming out right now, that is just so smart. Able to pick off the Flying Crow, and that's just gotta hurt if you're ACERGAME. I think that's probably what he was banking on having. Slightly earlier than his opponent, and using that to really create a little bit more pressure on the front side of H2O's base. But now that's gone, not going to be able to get any pressure off the back of that, and as a result, going to be forced into retreat mode here a little bit. both sides stepping their way forward. Both sides still do have their red coats available. Both sides engaging with heavy amounts of cavalry, meteor hammers, and iron foils for both sides. Looking like a pretty spread out, messy fight. ACERGAME looking like he's currently in a slightly better position, does have more cav remaining, is getting a pretty good fight on the front side of this. Disciples coming out for H2O and 11 Changdao swords. Also, the Flying Crow moving in from the backside, going to be able to add some DPS. Iron flails, meteor hammer stepping up, trying to get into a position where they can deal with that. 2 hits go down on it. The Flying Crow is going to be eliminated, and most of the army for H2O is down. GG called, and H2O has resigned. You heard it first here. Petard Skirm FF with China. New meta. I say it every... Did you steal my strategy? Going back to what ACERGAME did in the previous tournament, I don't think it's any surprise to any student of the game, like H2O most certainly is, that some sort of wonky, aggressive porcelain tower build on this map, because the previous time ACERGAME did a build similar to this, he did it on this map as well, right? And because it's fairly low hunt, low eco, it actually seems to be pretty damn good. It seems really, really strong. And ACERGAME throwing another little extra wrench in everything, going with the Petard FF. H2O not able to stop it in time, losing the porcelain tower, and his economy becoming just a little bit too weak to support the army that his opponent had, and as a result, ACERGAME takes game number 1 in a China mirror on Tibet. This is a best of 5. Important to remember, boys and girls, that the first 1 to 3 wins does win. ACERGAME currently up 1-0. ACERGAME wondering how you knew my build, LOL. You do cheesy stuff every game. Alright, looks like we're settling in for a French mirror in game number 2. ACERGAME, of course, having won the previous map, is forced to pick his civilization first. Does choose French on Hudson Bay. H2O, the opponent, loser of game number 1, does have the option to select second, but to nobody's surprise, I think in Twitch chat, has selected Tamir is going to be playing the French civilization as well, and we're going to be settling into a French mirror, perhaps something a little bit more standard, I say with a question mark, with a questioning tone, just because ACERGAME has proven so far that he's willing to do anything but standard to get ahead in this series. We'll see what he's got in store for game number 2. I think he's perhaps could be playing to H2O's game style, that the mirror only. Maybe he's got more tricky builds lined up for all of these different mirrors that he's anticipating to play. Game number 2, those settling in here on Hudson Bay, spawning on the right side of the map, playing the French civilization H2O. His opponent in the red color, spawning on the left side of the map. Currently up 1-0. Raise your dongers for ACERGAME09. He is here, the man, the myth, the legend. Going to be playing a French mirror. Both sides immediately running towards the middle of the map. Looks like we got a little bit of scout action going on. Both sides going to be trying to get the best of each other in terms of scouts. Looks like ACERGAME picked up an extra native scout, which is going to afford him the option to be doing a little bit more of the scout dueling. H2O, looks like, is going to lose his 1 native scout down here to the south side of the map in this Inuit Navajo scout war. Both scouts having the same stats. ACERGAME is most certainly going to win this little fight. Picks up the 14 XP. Also still does have his 1 other native scout alive, and has caught his opponent's explorer in hand combat as well. So pretty nice little advantages for ACERGAME working his way into game number 2 in the early portions. H2O is going to get away, is going to get back to his town center, but as a result of that has already lost his native scout and lost a lot of presence on the map in the early game here as well. So not going to have not going to be afforded the niceties of having the extra native scout available to him. But don't think that's going to be the end of the world. Should still be able to be fine in all regards. Everything's shaping up to look pretty normal. ACERGAME has not built a market. Instead, has just opted to drop only a house. On the other side of the map, H2O playing a little bit more standard. Does have a market down, and ACERGAME is already up with another very quick age up, 12ville age up. Interestingly enough, he didn't 1210. He still built the house. Perhaps just decided to cut a little bit of villager time just so that he could get aged up nice and quick. And I think we're going to see Acer do something very aggressive once again. I would not be surprised at all to see forward villagers. I would not be surprised at all to see some sort of like cheesy 8 Hussar build. We've seen it in the past, builds where you drop a stable on 12 or 13 CDB pop, ship 3 Hussar, build 5 Hussar. 8 Hussar realistically can deal with almost anything that your opponent can throw together, aside from like just opening raw pikes and Minutemen. You're going to pretty much beat almost any army in your opponent's base with that kind of build. And we'll see whether or not it justifies the slightly slower economy that he's going to be presented with without having hunting dogs available to him early in the game. 3 CDB is still the completely normal shipment for both sides. H2O is dropping down. It looks like a TP down here to the south side as well. So he's going to be perfectly fine to play the longer macro game. More curious to see what our boy ACERGAME is going to do back here in his base. 2 villagers stepping their way forward now. Are we going to see a slightly forward stable? And if I were going to have to guess, it's proving to be very, very difficult, by the way, to assume or guess what ACERGAME is going to be doing. Nope, it's going to be just a barracks in a slightly forward position. Going to be a barracks and a stable, so he's going to try and Samwise build off 12 population. Almost certainly will not be able to support all of the military that's going to be coming out of this, and it was also almost certainly going to have to. Well, he's got something else weird planned here too, because this isn't Samwise build. He's chopped enough wood in transition that he's not going to need to. He's not going to need the 700 wood, and so he's still got the 3 Hussars. I'll see we'll see how many units he gets out of here. Flip over to military units in queue. Does have 1 Hussar and 1 musket currently queued up, and it looks like he's gearing up for something very aggressive. H2O, of course, can see the age up time, knows that something is awry, knows that his opponent aged up very quickly pounding up that barracks. Does have pretty good Hun control here underneath his base, is going to be able to likely keep most of these CDB alive as a result, and should be okay against this pressure. We can see the 3 Hussar here, currently going to be dealt with by these Minutemen, but behind this 5 Musketeers have been built an additional 2 Hussars, so a very aggressive build here out of ACERGAME as well. Having 5 Muskets and 5 Hussar did get them in a slightly different way, but a slightly more expedited way as well. H2O unfortunately only getting out 1 musket in this first batch. Does pick off 1 musket immediately. Looks like he's going to be forced to fight here with his CDB a little bit. Hussar coming in from the right side, trying to deal some damage. The 1 musket that was made is going into hand combat mode to try and slow down these Hussar a little bit. The TC fire doing a pretty good job of dealing with these units out of ACERGAME. Looks like he is going to be able to deal with them fairly easily. 4 CDB coming as the follow-up here for ACERGAME. Minutemen coming out, or villagers rather, just coming out for H2O. Let's take a look at his text completed. Does have, at the very least, great coat researched, which is going to help him a little bit. Does still have the town center firing with 11 villagers as well. And here comes that 8 crossbow shipment, going to be able to help him stabilize off the back of this. brave crossbow. One brave soul is going to go down, but behind this, H2O looking like he will be able to stabilize. And it looks like we're going to settle into a somewhat even mid-game here, where both players are going to essentially be forced into H2 play. Of course, ACERGAME does already have the stable infrastructure established, and as we see, 4 more units do come out of there. Is slightly ahead in economic unit population as well. Did kill 1 CDB and has also already sent 4 CDB as well. So just in terms of raw economy, is in a slightly better position now as well. And as these 4 Hussar work their way in, H2O going to be forced to try and deal with them. The crossbows coming back home to be able to help deal with the ranged units that ACERGAME has in base. Pretty good job of body blocking there out of H2O as well. One of the Hussar splitting off to the top side, try and get in a position to deal with as many of the crossbows as possible. Also, Town Center still loaded up with 17 Vil population, doing a pretty good job of helping eliminate the military units of ACERGAME. And now with that 4 CDB shipment, H2O looking to be in a really fine position here. Economic unit population back to even. ACERGAME currently behind by 6 military unit population. And this is the point where you have to start to wonder whether or not this hyper-aggressive build was really actually worth it for ACERGAME. Going to be losing a little bit more hit points on one of those Kev. If you take stock of what presently he does have, he's got a stable. To his opponent's only single racks. He's also got a racks of his own, so he's slightly ahead in terms of military structure. If you take a look at the trading line, H2O does have a trading post available, ACERGAME does not. Maybe the one key caveat what this has forced is it has forced his opponent, the French player, to send 8 crossbow, which is kind of nice in itself. So his infrastructure is slightly better. His shipment progression is going to be slightly slower, and we'll see whether or not it pays off, as it looks like he's going to be taking a trip into the Fortress Age. 700 coin has been sent, the resources have been gathered, and he very soon will have the necessary requirements to hit the Fortress Age. Looks like he's clicked the button, is on his way up now, and we'll see whether or not he's going to get there quickly or slowly. The answer is going to be he's going to get there quickly, aging with Exiled Prince. Similarly, H2O sending 700 coin now as well. I think he's realized what his opponent has done. Just kind of a fun little tip for any newer players out there. If your opponent has been playing hyper-aggressive and then immediately stops with all forms of aggression, or maybe just shows 1 or 2 cavalry units in your base, odds are pretty good that he's trying to age up behind this. And H2O has a good read on that. Of course, if he didn't have a read on that before, the big banner that says your opponent is now in the next stage is probably a pretty good sign that he's aged up. And H2O going to take this time to step out across the map as a result of that. Of course, it doesn't quite have the military units, perhaps to just, well, maybe he does have the military units just to end the game off the back of this. I thought initially that H2O was going to be trying to age up to follow suit of his opponent, but it looks like he may actually just be going to try and force the issue in Age 2, maybe trying to catch his opponent split between his forward base and home where his resources are. Does have a pretty good military unit mass. Does have those remaining 7 or so crossbows from the shipment available. The unfortunate thing is he's going to have to be able to deal with Skirm Dragoon here fairly soon. Of course, ACERGAME has just sent a shipment, which does mean that likely 8 Skirm is going to be popping out. And if I'm H2O, I probably know that that's the next shipment that my opponent is going to be sending. And I think we can see that here, right? We can see the Hussar standing kind of guard outside of the town center. H2O going to be trying to, it looks like, force things back here on ACERGAME's forward base, and we'll see how that ends up working out for him. Of course, for Acer, there is the advantage that you do still have this forward location, but at the same time, it can be a little bit of a liability having your infrastructure that far out. 3 Corsairs is the next shipment for ACERGAME09. Is going to be able to hunt down these Hussar fairly efficiently as a result, and Now all of a sudden, if I'm H2O, I'm feeling a little bit concerned. I'm not aging up. I'm realistically nowhere near the resources needed to age up. And all of a sudden, I'm probably starting to feel a little bit uncomfortable. It looks like H2O just going to try and catch as many of these units as possible, and unfortunately for him, it's going to be a very good fight. Able to surround many of the skirmishers, still has plenty of Hussar left alive. The 3 Corsairs for ACERGAME quite out of position, not able to really do much in terms of assisting in this fight, and as a result, all of these Age 3 veteran units are going to get cleaned up here by the Age 2 army of H2O. And now looking at the military unit population, very in favor of H2O at this point. Blight the fact he is in the 2nd age, doesn't have quite as strong units. It is worth noting that he does have a trading post and his opponent does not. Oftentimes when French gets into the 3rd age, they look to be having that trading post, and as a result are able to really spam out a lot of shipments. That's not necessarily going to be the case here, just due to the fact that Acer does not have that trading post available to him. Big raid, however, by ACERGAME09, going to be able to apply a lot of pressure to these CDBs, and we can see H2O immediately the response is to bring a bunch of stuff back home. One CDB has already fallen, another one is going down as well. Things are looking kind of poor back here. A lot of CDBs taking quite a bit of damage. Fortunately for them, Veteran Corsairs not the best raiding unit in the game, just due to the fact that a lot of their power is in that extra splash damage potential that they do have, but still nonetheless losing a couple military or economic unit population off the back of that, while getting a little bit of raiding done for himself. Was able to slow down his opponent slightly, and it looks like H2O very soon is going to have the resources. There they are, has the resources, able to age up, and is now going to find himself in the 3rd age as well. Still does have that trading post, which is kind of his lifeblood at this point, right? We can see already has 1 shipment banked up in queue ready to use, and as a result of that, is going to find himself, I think, in a pretty good spot once he gets aged up here. ACERGAME doesn't have a ton of really scary units, just has a little bit of Dragoon mass going for him, which can kind of be mitigated by an 8 skirmisher shipment immediately in the Fortress Age. H2O has the infrastructure set up, still has a little bit of remaining army, several crossbows and musketeers set up as well. If he can just deal with this Dragoon mass for a little bit of time while he gets his 8 skirmisher shipment and gets them into a reliable position to help defend against these Dragoons, he should be in a pretty good spot. Dragoons coming around, 1 Corsair in that mix as well, going to add some extra DPS, and it looks like immediately H2 are going to be forced to come home. Had intentions of pressing out into the middle portion of the map once again, but that is not going to be the case. He's going to be forced to come home. Let's take a look at the text complete, see if he's got Blunderbuss. He doesn't have Blunderbuss researched yet, which maybe is a little bit of a miss. Worth noting, I don't think ACERGAME has even built, I don't know that ACERGAME has even built a market so far in this game. The only techs showing up in his tech queue are the are the 2 age ups that he's done. So ACERGAME certainly playing very low economy. Skirmishers coming out, 5 Dragoon shipment as well for H2O. Perhaps the better choice to the 8 skirmisher shipment, despite the fact that maybe 8 skirms does a slightly better, harder counter. Having the Dragoons able to run around the map, be slightly more impactful, is probably what H2O is looking for right now. Still does have this decent infantry mass remaining, and is going to be training skirmishers as well. There comes the 8 skirms, and now things looking better and better for H2O here every passing second, just due to the fact that we can't stress how important this trading post is at this point in the game. Both sides are essentially even in terms of tech. Economically, very, very even as well, although as we've mentioned very briefly, H2O does have market upgrades which are fairly impactful at this point in the game. But perhaps the most important thing, this very vital blue trading post on the south side of the map, going to allow him to continue to send shipments, and is going to allow him to continue to be slightly ahead in terms of shipments. And now I think we're going to see that starting to show through, as 8 skirms have shown up, have joined the fight. and are starting to add in some DPS. Of course, a couple crossbows here still out front as well, tanking some of that damage from the skirmishers, allowing their blue skirmisher counterparts to get off a little bit of extra damage as well. Skirmishers popping out for ACERGAME, Dragoons stepping forward, trying to get into a decent position, but more reinforcements coming for H2O from the backside. Going to be able to continue to press in here. The barracks is getting very low for Acer. Now all of a sudden he has to be very concerned with the position of his structure here. Should he lose this, almost certainly does not have the resources, the economy to rebuild it. If you take a look at his resource count presently, only has 23 wood and almost certainly no way to rebuild that off the back of this. H2O looks like going to sink everything into trying to siege down the barracks. And the barracks is going to fall here momentarily as it's sitting on 24 hit points. One more volley. One skirmisher has to decide to throw a little flame at it. There he goes. Is going to be able to knock that over. H2O, of course, playing kind of a dangerous game here, standing next to the stable during all this. Fortunately for him, I think he can take solace in the fact that ACERGAME's economy likely isn't very strong at this point. And you should have enough Dragoons to deal with the 1 or 2 Cuirassiers that could potentially pop out that ACERGAME would maybe get out. Two Falconets has hit the floor for both sides now. GG called by ACERGAME and is going to resign game number 2 in this kind of wacky and wild French mirror that has resulted in the current standing being brought up to 1 game apiece. Back to even we go. Reset yourself. Best of 3 incoming between H2O and ACERGAME. Truthfully, I feel like Ryan was probably on the edge of his seat there for much of that game. There was a point where you could tell he was feeling the pressure. At this point where ACERGAME got aged up, I actually thought Acer was in a pretty good spot. I felt like he was potentially in a position where he could maintain that lead technology-wise and continue the push. The key thing that I didn't take into consideration when ACERGAME did get aged up is the lack of the trading post. If he could have somehow worked a trading post into that, perhaps he could have had the sustenance to continue to push out across the middle portion of the map through the middle portion of that game and keep up the pressure. He wasn't able to quite have the impactfulness of the units that he needed early enough in the game, and that likely comes down to just the fact that he didn't have a trading post. And as a result, H2O was able to get up an age 2 mass that was able to beat back the veteran upgraded units, get aged up himself, and then once he got to the 3rd age, was able to leverage that trading post to get ahead in shipments and kind of use as a catch-up mechanic, leading into a pretty good, pretty solid game number 2 win for him. 1 game apiece. Head back out, and we'll find out what we have in store for us in game number 3. I'm just going to take a quick look at the map pool. High Plains is going to be the next, so we're going to be playing on a plains type map for map number 3. Worth noting, H2O does have to pick his civilization first due to the way that the rules work, and he has indicated that he's going to be playing Sioux. Interesting. I'm very curious to see what ACERGAME is going to do as a response to Sioux. Perhaps something like Japan is in the cards for ACERGAME09. ACERGAME currently deciding, of course, cannot play the French civilization. He must play a 3rd civilization. Throwing down a little snappy chat. So many ways I can beat you now. After H2O has indicated his intent to play the Sioux civilization. Of course, the one civ that he cannot choose is French. Cannot choose French. Also, similarly, can't play the civ that he played in game number 1. Can't play China. Although truth be told, I don't anticipate that he would want to play China on this map and matchup anyways. I feel like we're going to see Japan. Wouldn't it be great if he played like Spain? Wouldn't it be just absolutely great if he played Spain and just like FF, or even better, just like Pike Rod Rushed or something like that? How happy would we all be to see a little bit of Spain action? Truthfully, I still think that ACERGAME will eventually land on Japanese when his decision is made. That does two things. One, I don't anticipate that he would want to play H2O in a Japanese mirror anyways. So I suspect that he'll maybe pick Japan just because it's kind of a comfort pick in this matchup. You can tell that he's a bit torn. He's not sure what to pick. India, perhaps, another choice. India not as good on high plains. Yeah, he wants to use Japan, but I mean, I think knowing ACERGAME civs, like I feel like Japan would be the civ that he wants to play here. And I still think that eventually that's what he's going to end up on. It's a comfort pick. For Japanese players, those of you in chat, you know what it's like. What's my opponent got in mind? What kind of sneaky Siege FF am I going to be playing against? Japan or India, though, I'm feeling like are the two kind of options. I feel like India is less good on this open map, which is why I keep coming back to thinking Japan. ACERGAME, it looks like, has switched over to Japan. He is going to play the Japanese civilization, and with the quickness that H2O clicked in, I feel like that's not only A, what he was expecting, but B, has got something in store for us here in game number 3. ACERGAME has selected the Japanese civilization. Of course, having a 131 home city tells you that ACERGAME has played a game or two with Japan. And I think it's just kind of his comfort pick, similar to myself. If you get thrust into a weird situation, oftentimes the civ that a lot of people will gravitate towards will be the civ that they feel just the most comfortable with and have the most game knowledge with. And for ACERGAME, I think that civilization is probably either French or Japanese. French is no longer available to him due to the fact that he did play it in the previous game, which makes me not surprised at all to see him gravitate towards the Japanese civilization in this map number 3. Spawning on high plains in the upper right side of the map, in the color red, playing the Japanese civilization, ACERGAME09. Spawning on the other side of the map, in the color blue, with a rocket ship for an explorer who's already found himself out in the middle of the map. Look at that guy moving on the mini-map. Look at how is that fair? We'll dwell on that in a moment here, but in the bottom left side of the map, in the color blue, playing the Sioux civilization, H2O, and Stone the Wolf is a speedy little devil. He's already found himself up here to the 12 o'clock position, perhaps searching for ACERGAME's monks, trying to find them, trying to eliminate them from the game, apply some pressure to them early, or perhaps trying to catch them hunting out a good treasure. That looked like that was a pretty good treasure back there. That should be 95 wood. Yeah, it is. Looks like the convert has already been used on Outlaw Rider. Where did he convert that Outlaw Rider from? Perhaps just the XP treasure here. Just took one off the XP treasure. is going to tame himself up a coyote. This treasure has been spotted, by the way, worth noting, by both players. And H2O certainly keen to get that treasure away from the Japanese player, and it looks like ACERGAME quite keen to pick that up himself. Probably is going to be dropping down a shrine here first to be able to make sure that he doesn't get himself housed. And then following that, we'll see whether or not he goes for that treasure, or whether or not he's just going to go straight in for this big XP treasure. Should have another convert coming up very soon. Does begin to use that, and it looks like we're going to have a bit of a treasure contention here. Both sides have found themselves this pretty nice little treasure. ACERGAME stunning the Outlaw Rider of his opponent. We'll zoom in a little bit so we can see who gets it. The Outlaw Rider is down. And nobody beats the Sioux War Chief when it comes to turn radius and picking up treasure. H2O not going to let that treasure go down. Still does have a couple Outlaw Riders. Looks like one of them is going to get eliminated, but does also save one of them for himself and pick up a very, very nice treasure as compensation as well. So going to be very happy with that. Get his next shipment out just that much quicker. Now, if we take a look at shipment sent, likely sending his 3 villagers right now as we speak, and similarly has almost another shipment available to him as well. So going to be able to either save that or maybe send something. I suspect he'll save it and use it in the next stage. But ACERGAME, it looks like, is going to find this wood treasure, is going to be able to gather that up. And that in itself is a win. Now, ooh, 140 food. Had H2O not found this beautiful little wood treasure down here, I think he maybe would have even just tried to race. Is he still going to try and race all the way across the map? He is. And I'll be damned if he gets there in time to steal it. Holy crap, would that be annoying. That would set off a brand new level of Zuda Rage, seeing that Explorer run literally the entire length of the map to steal a treasure. He is not going to quite get there, although I assure you it was damn close. And had he shown up there, I think ACERGAME, myself, and every Japanese player in the world who's ever played against Sioux, anyone who's ever played against Sioux, would all take a very loud collective groan about how fast that War Chief moves. But H2O going to sprint back to the other side of the map where he's located the 140 food treasure, and is going to be picking that up, and is going to be quite happy with that. Picking up quite a few nice treasures. Let's recap the treasures, because quite a few nice treasures have been going over here. H2O has picked up a coyote and 210 XP, along with an additional 70 coin, 40 coin, and 140 food, while ACERGAME has only picked up 1 treasure, but it's a very impactful one for Japan. He's picked up 95 wood, which, when Heavenly Kami has arrived, means a free shrine and a way to send off your boom to the next level in a very nice way. We can already see 4 shrines, it looks like, down for ACERGAME. Spread out in a nice position, has his monks covering 2 different sides of the map. Going to be very happy about that. Also looks like ACERGAME walling up early in the game, perhaps is afraid of any sort of aggressive pressure. I don't suspect we'll see too much pressure here out of him, out of our Sioux player. Aging up just with the 400 wood politician, and we'll see what he's got in mind, whether or not there's going to be any sort of shenanigans or anything like that. I suspect we're just going to see some sort of an FF here out of H2O. I don't think we'll see anything forward or anything like that, but ACERGAME preparing for it nonetheless, is building this little bit of a wall and keeping things very, very defensive back at home, getting this, not only this wall up, but then a secondary layer of building wall going behind this now with the market, the consulate, the Teshuga Shrine, all kind of working into this nice little pocket here as well. H2O picking up a bunch of wood here now with the 700 wood shipment coming, and he's going to be translating that into his trading post line, beginning to be complete. Worth noting that, you know, not only does the War Chief's insane move speed benefit him in treasure gathering, but in trade post building as well. It allows him to get all over the map very, very quickly and benefits him in multiple ways. Immediately able to throw his way around the map, get up those trading posts. In ACERGAME, he's not going to leave. He's not going to leave any room for doubt. He is going to be throwing up a full wall around the entirety of his base. He does not want any unwelcome visitors at this point in the game, and as a result, is going to be tossing up at what looks to be a full wall around his base. Likely will complete this all the way to the back side of this map as well. I would assume so, at least having seen this wall get completed all the way to the back side of his base. Worth noting that he is using quite a few villager seconds to build that, but perhaps he's not going to be too bothered with that. Does end up sneaking one of the trading posts away from H2O as well. H2O is going to get Stagecoach TP on 4 of his TPs, does have a 3 TP advantage, 4 TPs to 1, but perhaps we'll see him immediately start to siege this one down when he does get out some military units. Looks like 5 Axe Riders going to be trained here, and I suspect they'll go over here and begin to do 2 things. 1, look for these monks to kill, and 2, begin to siege down things like this trading post, perhaps start a little bit of pressure on some of these shrines as well. And it looks like they are going to surround this monk. ACERGAME would be in his best... It would be to his advantage to be able to poof out of there. Unfortunately, not able to get out in time. Going to lose one of his monks. Fortunately for him, if we take a look at the shrine population, has a pretty good shrine count, up to 12 shrines already, which is going to result in a fairly good economy behind this. If we take a look at, he's building up even more structure. He is deathly afraid of some sort of siege rush timing push here from this FF. And as a result, has built up a ton of walls. He's even switched over to the age 2 Japanese consulate, which probably means he's not looking to age up. He's sent 4 villagers, probably twice as well, and now is sending 600 coin to likely age, which means that he's probably going to just try and slug this out in age 3. And hoping to buy enough time against any sort of potential pressure that H2O will put on with these walls, and just hope that his economy can hold on for just long enough. The TP has been killed, H2O has reached the Fortress Age, and we'll see what kind of decisions he's going to be making here. Continuing to train Axe Riders from the stable, and not really putting any effort into the fact to try and hide the fact that he's building Axe Riders, using them to freely siege shrines across the map. Going to just miss the passive of resources from that TP, but currently does have the entire trade post line occupied, and as a result, currently has a very strong economy, despite the fact that he is Sioux, does have a market, but only has, where's text completed? Only has, looks like just the first 2 market upgrades, researched hunting dogs and placer mines. ACERGAME is now working his way up to the 3rd age as well, has the Golden Pavilion training, and does have his infrastructure set up in the back, with the stable and the barracks both completed as well. Has not researched Bushido tactics just yet out of the Japanese consulate. I do think he's going to need that here relatively soon, should he want to be able to fully commit out of a single barracks. Either that, or he's going to have to drop a 2nd Rex here just to be able to make sure that he gets out enough infantry units to deal with the cavalry that H2O is going to be having here. Joaquin is stepping their way forward, and they're going to be slightly disappointed in the fact that there's effectively a large ring around ACERGAME's base. But H2O just continuing to siege around the map, and I don't think H2O is going to be too disappointed about this. I suspect that he's probably just going to wait until the coin mines run out. If you take a look at the coin mines in ACERGAME's base, there's only about 2,500 coin. And Japan very soon has to start making some awkward decisions, as it looks like Bushido Tactics has now finished. Very soon, ACERGAME has to decide a couple of things. One, is he ever going to come out of his base and help defend these shrines. Because if you take a look at these shrines, they are going down quickly, very, very quickly. ACERGAME even having a difficult time staying above 100 shrine population at this point in the game. There are a bunch of Wakinas out here just containing him, continuing to slow him down. And he is losing so many shrines behind this. ACERGAME knows his opponent has a full TP line, knows that he's actively losing shrines, knows that his opponent is freely gathering the hunt everywhere across the map, and it can't feel good. Japan has locked himself into this little corner, and he needs to bust out, and he needs to bust out soon. He needs to come out of his base in a way that is going to allow him to not only secure another coin mine as we continue to monitor his coin situation as it starts to fall below 2,000, but he's also got to clear this entire army, which is going to be very difficult to do. 2 Flaming Arrows is going to come out. Gives him a decent way to deal with the Wakina mass, but these Axe Riders, I mean, the clock is ticking. They're continuing to siege their way forward. Minutemen being called here for ACERGAME, this just isn't going to be enough. There's no way it's enough. H2O's got way too large of a mass. Minutemen being called, but it's not going to matter. It's just going to be an absolute demolition of the ACERGAME base here. Everything has fallen over, and ACERGAME is 100% dead. This is a dead Japanese player, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you who are unaware, this is what dead Japan looks like. Going straight for the throne, going to take down the town center, and with the siege potential from these scabs here, does have a decent siege attack. The villagers going to be trying to run their way out. Looks like a black rider has been trained from the monastery. That's not going to realistically do anything. In ACERGAME just trying to run as many villagers as he can here, but it's not going to matter. H2O just sieging down the TC, and well, he is going to escape with a couple villagers here out the side, but truthfully, what's that really going to mean? It's going to mean that he's now on the outside looking in from his what was once his safe haven, his fortress, and is and is now going to lose all of the structure inside of his little wall. GG called, and well, after the first 2 intense games, game number 3 going in a very, very quick manner to the Sioux player. H2O currently up 2 games to 1. Pretty controlled build there out of H2O. Did a really good job. Look at the shrine cover after that game. There are 2 shrines up here on this side of the map. There's 3 really close to home. And aside from that, ACERGAME is basically on nuts for shrines. He is completely stuck out in the cold in terms of eco. H2O has the full TP line. And with the fire pit back at home being danced on by several villagers, the siege potential in this army is very, very high. If you take a look at one of the Axe Riders, 44 siege damage. That's essentially pikeman level at this point, and is able to rip down the walls, rip down the structures very, very quickly. And as a result, takes a very decisive game number 3 here on High Plains, and brings the series up to 2 games to 1. Heading into game number 4. Map number 4 will be Cascade Range, the non-TP map of this set. H2O, it looks like, has already decided he's going to be playing India. I suspect ACERGAME09 will also be playing the Indian civilization. And no surprises there. Non-TP map, a little bit choky in the middle portion of the map. Great map to be playing the Indian civilization. And it looks like both players going to be playing that civ. Just checking to see if we had quality options just yet. Looks like we don't. I currently have the streams set at 2500 bit rate kbps. If we do at some point get slightly higher in terms of viewers, and we can get those ever popular quality options, I will bump up the bit rate to 3,500, maybe even 4K. So for those of you who do want to watch with minimal tearing and full HD, can be afforded that. But for the time being, for the interest of those who don't have quite as powerful of internet connections, we'll keep it dialed back to 2,500 bitrate. Game number 4, going to be starting here momentarily. ACERGAME says, had all 3 games won. I'm not sure at what point in that last game ACERGAME feels like he had that map won, because what I saw was a lot of Sue just being everywhere and killing everything. I can agree that in the French game he was very close to winning, but I find it very hard to argue that he was winning in that previous map. It'd be interesting to pick his brain on that. But this is the decider. Perhaps the game that will pass H2O on to the round of 8, I guess, the quarterfinals. Should he win this particular map, spawning in the bottom right side of the map, in the color blue, playing the Indian civilization, is H2O. His opponent, spawning the 10 o'clock position, is the red Indian player, is going to be ACERGAME09. He's down to perhaps his last map. Needs to pull a victory out here to force a game number 5, or he will be eliminated, and his opponent H2O will advance to the round of 8, where he will play a player to be named. Not sure that it's been decided just yet, but I'm sure we'll find out in due course. Both sides opening up with fairly standard looks. Nothing too crazy. I'm going to try the scoreboard over here this time. As we've got both monks maneuvering about the map, H2O does pick up 40 wood treasure. Is working on another wood treasure over here is ACERGAME. And it looks like both sides are going to be fighting for this one here. That grizzly bear getting pretty low. Gets stomped on as well. And the XP is going to go to H2O. And the treasure is going to go to H2O as well. Picks up that 40 wood treasure. That's 2 40 wood treasures for him. Going to ease the burden slightly of his early game. And as a result, is I think going to make him a pretty happy camper when it comes to this early game. ACERGAME, what has he found himself over here? 50 food treasure, going to begin working on that. Or no, that's H2O rather, has found that 50 wood treasure. He's going to be able to pick that up. It seems like the monks kind of mirroring each other across the map. Both sides working towards their opponents here on both sides. And they're just kind of spotting each other out, feeling each other out, trying to get as much of this map explored in the early game as possible. But we'll have to see what happens. Of course, we've mentioned this map before. It does not have a trading post, which is important to note due to the fact that civilizations like Germany's, your French's, much of your European civilizations, Otto's, certainly something like Iroquois, very dependent on trading posts, and as a result, not as good on this particular map. India, of course, not as reliant on trading posts. They do just fine without a trading post. Truthfully, if they have a little bit of XP from livestock, that's another great way for them to get that extra little kick of XP. But not as dependent as many other civilizations on their shipments are India. And as a result, both players selecting them for this map. Agroforts beginning to go down in the central portion of the map for H2O. Similarly, ACERGAME09 has elected to put his Agrofort in the middle portion of the map. Both players probably, well, at least Acer is well aware how close the Agroforts are. And we can fit them both on the same screen, and we're going to have a very tense situation here in the early portion of the game. H2O immediately sending some villagers forward to begin building that Agrofort a little bit quicker. Does have currently 3 villagers building on his wonder. Also looks like he's trying to get this hunt under his control as well. Keen to have that have that extra hunt. I wonder if we'll see any sort of wall play here out of H2O. Certainly a little bit of a wall here. It could play to his advantage, perhaps. Maybe a wall like this, just to split them up. Or maybe a wall like this to get around it a little bit. I think it'd be kind of clever to see some wall play. I think it could provide a little bit of added bonus that maybe both sides would be keen to have in their advantage. I mean, even Acer could get a little bit of a wall going, could start to wall H2O's base away a little bit and get him a nice little advantage. But for the time being, nobody, it looks like, super keen to get the get that going, but I do think it could be kind of an interesting little aspect to this game. As the Aggro-Forts get close to completion here, both sides are going to be forced to decide what they're going to do in the early game and how aggressive of builds they're going to be doing. And of course, if we switch over to the shipment sent, both sides opening very standard with the distributivism card. The next card here, though, will be the impactful card. Will kind of set the pace of the game, whether or not both sides are going to elect to be aggressive. Perhaps one side will elect to be aggressive and one will be the defender. Or perhaps both sides will realize that we're perhaps in a stalemate situation with the Aggro-Forts this close together and will opt to send something like 600 wood. Both players, it looks like, have built markets, still playing fairly economically behind all of this. Nothing crazy going on in the bases, no skipped markets. Not like either of these aggros is a 10-10 aggro. And H2O is going to be the first to throw up a little bit of a wall. And I think this is an intelligent thing. If nothing else, it gives him a little bit of a pocket to stand in with his ranged units right back here. Does afford him the ability to just kind of keep his opponent at bay. And it looks like these two Aggro-Forts are just going to look at each other for a little bit longer, as ACERGAME has elected to send foreign logging as his first card. And on the other side of the map, H2O going with the ever-standard 600 wood shipment. So everything looking pretty standard. I suspect out of H2O we'll see a consulate come down behind this. Likely going to be going with the 600 wood, 300 export route. ACERGAME perhaps going to be doing something a little bit different, maybe even something a little bit more economic, something FF-oriented maybe. We'll have to see what his next card is. That will give us a little bit more insight as to what his actual game plan is. Worth noting that with just foreign logging sent, it takes about 5 minutes for that card to pay off. And should he make it through 5 minutes without everything else being equal, he'll find himself with essentially a 5-0 lead at that point in the game. However, the 600 wood is going to be much more impactful, much more flexible in terms of being able to help you build structures like this consulate, get market upgrades like Imperial Bureaucracy, which is very wood heavy, 150 wood. Flume and Ditching, similarly, also 100 wood as well. So very expensive market techs that can be invested in that just straight up 600 wood is going to help ease that burden of getting those techs and getting that structure up. At the cost of being something that is a one-time bonus and you don't get to use again, whereas foreign logging affects your economy for the remainder of the game. And we'll see what ACERGAME's next card is. I think that's going to be, truthfully, will tell us a little bit more about the game. Currently just training Gurkhas along with these two Sepoy. And if it's 600 wood, or 600 coin rather, I think we'll expect to see him aging up. Diplomatic Intrigue, very, very common, as we mentioned, for H2O, playing pretty much the standard India build. And we'll see whether or not ACERGAME goes with one of 3 shipments. 600 wood, 600 coin, or 300 export, I think, are all possible. I think anything other than those 3 shipments would be kind of a head-scratcher. Stable coming up for him, making perhaps 600 coin that much more tempting, just to begin to get some camels out, help ease his economy here a little bit in the early game. Still hasn't sent that card. Oh, interesting. Spice Trade coming as his next card. He's playing a very economic H2 game, and we'll see how that ends up paying off. H2O, I feel like, is gearing up to get himself into the next age. Does have his stable coming up as well, but with that 300 export, is going to be able to send the Ottoman villagers. Let's flip over to the military units to see what we currently have. Both sides essentially just training Gurkhas for the time being. ACERGAME also kind of setting up some battle lines here, trying to keep as much vision in the middle of the map as possible. And I suspect behind this, H2O will send 600 coin as his next card, either to age up or to begin training camels from the stable that he's constructed. ACERGAME, though, has elected to go with a very economic yet very slow approach. He's sent Spice Trade, which does give him 20% gather rate on hunts and berries, which is worth noting the berries part as well, because this map does have berries on it in quite a few places as well. When the hunts, which can be a little bit thin, do start to run out, some of these packs of berries that are around the map, like these, do become a little bit more tempting. So Spice Trade is worth noting that it does affect those as well. But for the time being, both sides just drawing their battle lines. Agroforts continue to look at each other in the middle of the map. Their Indian flags waving happily in the breeze. And we're still at kind of a stalemate. Neither side really pushing their way forward. In fact, both sides pretty much mirroring each other on all fronts. H2O going to be sending foreign logging. Looks like he's going to continue just to play the eco game. And we'll see what ACERGAME sends next. It's ball in his court now. 600 coin looks like it's going to be the next shipment for him. And we'll see whether or not he pulls the trigger to use that to try and age up, or whether or not he uses that just to continue production. At the current time, both sides have just continued to produce units for the most part, and either side wanting to commit to the tech to age up, commit the resources to age up. Of course, 2,200 resources is a lot of resources to get aging up with, but 600 coin will help ease that burden should he elect to take that route. Doesn't look like he's banking the resources, certainly not the food just yet, to be able to do that. I see no signs of a wonder going down anywhere, so safe to assume he's just continuing to construct military units at this point in the game. And both sides starting to just throw up some of these walls, trying to get control here on the middle side of the map. Kind of interesting that it oscillates on sides. Both sides keen to wall off the side that their agrifort doesn't lean towards, doesn't favor. We can see ACERGAME trying to get this north choke walled off. H2O currently constructing a wall here along the south choke. It looks like H2O was able to slow down his opponent a little bit here, and it looks like he's also going to be able to get this wall up uncontested over here. H2O making the first movement out across the middle portion of the map, perhaps going to force some sort of adjustment, at least in the positioning of ACERGAME's army. And it looks like, ooh, here comes the Wonder. The Wonder has gone down. Looks like it's a Tarmanar Gate. And as a result, we'll have a Mahout Lancer available to him when he does get aged up. Now, that's a pretty good way off. If we take a look at text being researched, currently only about 50% of the way, and hold that thought, is actually Tower of Victory as well. So we'll not have that Mahout Lancer available to him when he does get aged up. Instead, we'll have a nice little bonus to help him fight. Minutemen being called here, going to be focused down. Pretty good Gurkha massive. Take a look at the opposing armies. H2O certainly does have many more Gurkhas than his opponent does at this point. It is currently 22 to 36, meaning that this army, should they fight right now, almost certainly H2O going to find himself in the advantage. ACERGAME is aging up. He is 100% of the way aged up. He's probably going to immediately slam down Inspiration. Inspiration is called, which does signal to H2O that his opponent is working with a fairly strong military advantage here for the next couple seconds. But I don't think that's going to really bother H2O. It looks like he's just going to continue the fight. 5 Sours sneaking in here from the right-hand side. And it looks like he's going to be able to eliminate the army for ACERGAME and find himself in a really great position. All of a sudden, ACERGAME very spread out and looking like he's going to perhaps fall here in game number 4. Most of his military units have been eliminated. and as a result is finding himself in kind of an awkward spot. 70 Army do come out, but unfortunately there's not a lot of heavy infantry for them to truthfully have much impact on. And as a result, once again, kind of caught out in a bad position. Perhaps would have been slightly better had those been Mahout, but even still, just look at the military mass. 40 Gurkhas still on the map. A couple of Sours and Zams as well, going to be able to help push back anything that ACERGAME would potentially have to contest the map. And now H2O going to have free reign over this central portion of the map. Going to be able to begin sieging down the Agra fort. The Urmi stepping their way forward. Unfortunately, they're just going to be able to get focused down. They're not going to be super effective. Oh well, here's the chance. The dream composition for India at times. Mahout Lancers and Urmi. Unfortunately, they're going to get focused down. More Zams focusing the Mahouts as well. It looks like both of those are going to fall. A couple Sours do pop out of the stable as well, getting in a somewhat decent position, but H2O going to be able to eliminate that, and I think H2O now sensing that that the game is in his favor, starting with a little bit more of the smack talk. Has been pretty quiet, especially after he won that first game, but looks like he's got this game in firm hands. A little bit of friendly banter going on between the players, and I don't think there's too much that ACERGAME can do here. If you take a look at the military unit populations, 53 to 1 currently is almost certainly going to mean that that H2O is going to be the winner of this. The American dream coming through into the round of 8. It's just a matter of time until ACERGAME has acknowledged the fact that there's no way he can realistically deal with this army. Is building up a couple of barracks as a caravan as well back in the backside of his base, but let's be honest, realistically he's essentially out of resources. His villagers are very spread out. 2 Howdas, the next card, going to be coming out, but H2O has a good read on where the remaining villagers are likely going to be. Heads on over to this coin mine and is immediately going to begin plummeting those villagers down in their health. The remaining villagers over here hunting as well, going to get focused down by the camels as well. 2 Howdas stepping forward. Unfortunately, there's plenty of anti-goon type units available for here for H2O. And now if we take a look at the economic unit population after that absolute slaughter, 51 to 23 in H2O's favor. Going to be able to take this game almost certainly. A couple more Gurkhas trickling out here for ACERGAME, but they're not even upgraded for him at this point. Doesn't have the disciplined upgrade, and as a result, looks like he's not going to be able to hold this pressure. It was a good attempt from him, but unfortunately, looking like H2O proving once again why he is one of the tournament favorites, showing his strength after losing kind of the scary first game, losing the China Mirror, but comes back with 3 very solid performances after that. And ACERGAME refusing to die. And to be fair, everyone, I mean, if you're in a tournament, you might as well play to your last unit, right? Maybe your opponent accidentally deletes all of his villagers or something. Cough, cough, H2O has done that before. But I suspect even if he were to delete all of his villagers at this point in the game, ACERGAME would still not be able to clear this army. GG has been called. ACERGAME wishing his opponent good luck in the next round. Good sportsmanship out of ACERGAME09. Unfortunately, unable to beat H2O in this best of 5 series. Does fall 3 games to 1. H2O will be moving on to the round of 8. Looking forward to that. Let's see who he could potentially be playing in the round of 8. I'm not exactly sure. I'm going to take a look at the bracket right now. See who he's got in his side of the bracket. ACERGAME will be, or H2O will be playing either the winner of the Mito Ramex series, which will be the 3rd match we'll be watching today. So he'll be playing Mito or Ramex 12 in the round of 8. which should be another pretty good matchup. And then following that, well, there's too many games to be played to speculate who he'll play after that. But perhaps on a collision course to see Samwise 12 in the finals, or Lord Raphael. Whoever should win that, I think, is going to be the favorite, the top side of the bracket. And I think, of course, the American Dream, H2O, kind of the favorite here in the bottom side of the south side of the bracket as well. So we'll see what we've got going on here. But for the time being, H2O winning game number 4, taking the series 3-1, and